What is good, Tesla family? It's Ray J back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's going on with Tesla stock in the overall market. I want to break down a very, very important warning I have for you guys going into tomorrow as we have CPI coming out, and break down some very important things that can happen to the markets as the data ends up releasing. But before I break anything down, all this information, before I talk about why tomorrow is going to be a very important day, let me just mention a couple of things. Firstly, I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Moomoo link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Moomoo, deposit $100 into the account, you are guaranteed up to 5 free stocks. If you deposit $1,000 into the account, you are guaranteed up to 15 free stocks. And this offer ends very, very soon in just a couple of weeks. Anyways, now let's break down what's going on with the VIX. I want to talk about the VIX very carefully because we're actually at a critical level, and this basically represents something that can happen to the whole market. The market dictates the VIX, but the way at which implied volatility is moving right now is going to be very important because of CPI, and this will help give us a better understanding of how the market's looking. And let me just elaborate. So we have this uptrend on the VIX, right? It's very important that I go over this for Tesla too. We have this nice uptrend. It's been uptrending quite nicely. CPI is going to come out tomorrow morning. And just as a reminder, we have about an hour and a half left of market trading for today and for market open, if you're trading during the open. And then tomorrow morning, an hour before the market ends up opening, we have CPI coming out. CPI is projected to be close to expectations, basically close to what we saw from before, or if not a little bit higher. So we might see a slight increase in CPI, but we're also anticipating a slight decrease in core CPI, so it's expected to be very mixed. We'll see what this causes for the markets. The data is very manipulated. Even if the data is good, it could still cause the market to drop. If the data is bad, it could cause the market, it's all over the place. Sometimes it's very difficult to predict. That's why it's important to be open-minded. The VIX is at this trend line. Remember this blue trend line? We actually bounced off of this multiple times. So will we get a bounce tomorrow? Will the VIX end up pushing upwards after CPI comes out? If this happens, this will cause the market to tank, or is the VIX about to lose this support and then re-enter this demand zone, which is very close to just under $12, like around 11.8 to 12, and then bounce like later on? Are we about to see something like this? What this means is, depending on what the VIX does, the market might start to tank tomorrow because of CPI, or the market might get a temporary relief rally. We're going to be watching this tomorrow morning, which way we end up seeing this go. If we get this break, there could be another temporary relief rally. The market might start to continue to push. And then there could be one more little push thanks to CPI, but eventually I do think the VIX will bounce. The market will basically pump again, see another rally, and then eventually dump. It may not last that long. It could just last a few days, if not like a week before the market ends up dumping if we do get the rally, or we could just dump immediately, depending on CPI. So that's what the VIX is basically telling us. What does that mean for SPY and etc.? What this means is when you look at SPY, it's pumping very nicely, approaching 477. Very bullish break from this wedge. I warned everyone that if we broke 476, expect this thing to be bullish, especially if we broke out of this 475 area, this resistance. So we have a bullish wedge that ended up developing out a nice bullish breakout. I want to warn you all because, look, if you're playing this, it's your choice. You could do whatever you want with your money. I'm not here to give you financial advice or anything like that. But my point in saying this is that we never know what's going to happen with CPI. And if you want to hold overnight through it, it's your choice. It could work out very well for you, but it's also kind of risky because we don't know if the market will dump tomorrow, if the market's going to get a big rally. It could still rally, who knows? But we have only about an hour and a half left. If you want to take profits, you could take profits. If you don't want to, it's your choice. I just want to give you guys a very important warning about that. So with that being said, how is SPY looking? As long as we hold above 476.5, there's going to be potential for it to push higher. It's above this wick right over here. That gives this some potential to get close to the 477s. As far as support goes, we're going to be watching 476 as good support. 475.5 and then 475. If we lose 475, we could turn back to bearish. As of right now, it hasn't done that. It's looking very strong. It looks like it wants to hold up. So watch and see how it reacts to 477. We're trying to get closer to that. SPY is still rallying as the whole market is pushing. I also want to mention that SPY on the current time frame looks very strong. But things could change depending on CPI, so just be a little bit careful. The trend is still favoring the bulls for now. Now, Tesla, on the other hand, is not looking that great because Tesla is losing a lot of strength. This was amidst lots of bad news that's been continuing to come out, but it looks like the bad news in itself was not the direct factor. Tesla's been weak ever since deliveries came out, which is very, very unfortunate. And now it's kind of just holding this critical support. One of the things I mentioned is that we might see a lot of shop for Tesla in the markets. This was actually not what really played out for every stock out there. This did play out very well for like Apple, Tesla, a few tickers, but other tickers are getting bought up even more than expected. But for Tesla, this was just choppy throughout the entire day. We just saw this thing bouncing between 232 and 234, back and forth and back and forth. Now it's just barely trying to hold above 234. Very similar to yesterday, very boring price action. What is Tesla doing? So watch the 200 EMA on the daily time frame. This is at 234. Tesla's trying to hold this. This is critical support. If it holds this, it's going to be in an okay place to try to hold. If it loses this, this is going to be not so good for the stock. So just to make this clear, I know it's a little hard for some people to see. Let me zoom into this. You can see we have this red line in the bottom. You guys see this red line. This is our 200 EMA on the daily. I'm watching that very carefully. So what do I see for Tesla? Honestly, guys, it all depends on CPI. Tesla's trying to hold above the 200 EMA. If we hold this, if CPI helps the market launch, there is some potential for Tesla trying to get back to 238. There is some potential for that at least. If CPI causes the market to dump, Tesla's going to lose the 200 EMA, and that's not going to be too good. If we close below that, Tesla could sink a lot more. So you want to be very careful. If you're trading Tesla, trying to do anything, like that, if you shorted Tesla ever since like a week ago, in my opinion, it wouldn't be a bad idea to just like secure at least some profits. Not financial advice because you never know what's going to happen with CPI, but at the same time, it's all your choice. So I'm not going to force anything or say anything else. The QQQ is trying to fill its gap very close to 409. I told you if we broke above this 406 area, we could see this thing attempt to push up to 408 plus, and above that we had 409 to 410 coming. That is very close to the resistance that we just saw. I want to mention that on the QQQ, on the daily time frame, we actually came close to filling this gap. I think we're about to fill this gap if we haven't done so already. QQQ has done so, which is a very, very good sign. The question is, can this thing try to break to new all-time highs, or is this thing going to reject? That will depend a lot on CPI. So watch these levels very carefully. We'll see what CPI causes. It is holding up very nicely close to 409. We have some tight resistance there. But overall, the chart looks bullish. You could argue you have a rising wedge that's forming on it, though, so just be a little bit careful. I will draw this out in more detail later on. In fact, I could just do it right now. You could just draw out this wedge. Kind of looking like this. And then you can't forget about this resistance like from right here. So just be careful, guys. We'll see how this thing ends up doing. Will this rising wedge end up panning out or not? We'll see. It all depends on CPI. I can't really predict that, so just be a little careful. As far as Nvidia goes, Nvidia is actually breaking out higher than expected. It's still showing strength. It's not done just yet. Basically, we have resistance right now very close to 545, this 545 to 546 zone. I would actually draw out a zone here because it's rejected in similar levels. But with that being the resistance between 546 and 545, right? This is going to be very important, very pivotal for NVIDIA. And then as far as support goes, we're trying to hold 542, 540, and 538. So we're kind of stuck chopping around in this higher area. It's still holding up decently. If CPI helps this thing launch, 550 plus could be coming. If not, we could see a retracement. So we're going to be very careful with NVIDIA. We'll see how well it holds. It has been pumping quite a bit. It's still looking decent, but it all depends on CPI. I'll be talking in more detail about this later on. And then as far as Aapl goes, I just want to mention that Aapl has been doing almost exactly as what we predicted. I told you it's going to likely be stuck between 184 to 185 throughout the majority of the day, but there could be a pump coming if you see this wedge break out. I also warned you all that we have a nice cup and handle like formation on Aapl. So this could see some upside. The technicals the pattern at least looks bullish on it, suggesting that there could be a big push coming to higher levels. When it comes to the downside, you're going to be watching to see if this thing could hold above 185 and then 183.5. As of right now, this is looking bullish. It's favoring the bulls a bit more. We'll see if this holds up after CPI. And we'll see if the buyers have the edge right now. Can they end up launching Aapl back up? Because this is forming a very, very bullish looking accumulation structure. So with that being said, even though technicals on Aapl look a bit more bullish, this is still holding up the range that I called out. And we'll just see how the market holds up. The market is still holding up very nicely into as we're approaching close. SPY is still, once again, pumping. The market's holding up nicely, so it's great to see, but we'll see what CPI causes because that's going to be the real market moving event. We'll see if that causes one more temporary relief rally where the market just continues to push, not a relief rally, but just like another rally, or if we end up getting a big rejection. The VIX is going to be very important, so watch that as well, and we'll see how it goes. As for the Tesla enthusiasts out there, Tesla is just barely holding our 200 EMA. It's very boring, very sideways, very weak. So we'll see how Tesla does. I'll be patient with CPI. It looks like it just might shop around for the rest of the day. But with that being said, have a great day, guys. Don't forget about the warning I gave you. The market's going to close soon, and this is your last chance to exit any positions before CPI. It's all your choice. You can even play CPI if you want, but I'm just giving you guys the warning. And with that being said, have a great day. Tesla in the market to the moon because the long term is very bright. And peace out.